Are you impatient? Me too.
Yes.
Today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to wait. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
You know, Danny, I struggle with patience. And when I say struggle, I mean like, oh, this is the big one. How are you dealing with patience?
Not great. Well, I think sometimes I think I can be very patient in certain circumstances,
When I don't want
but a
something,
lot,
I'm totally patient.
yeah. If it has nothing to do with me, or if I don't want to do something and it's taking longer to get there, I'm great. No, but but yeah, dude, it sucks. It's hard. Everything, because everything takes, it's like because we have so much time. Like I know I have a lot of time, you know but at the same time it's like you also like you imagine these futures and you imagine the work you're doing leading to something and you want it now. You don't want to wait till yeah, it's great in 5 years. I'm sure I'm going to see it, like, because if you like, we've talked about self comparisons all the time, right? If I compare myself to 5 years ago, doing awesome. But like I also want to like fast forward to that now. It's like what was that? Remember that Adam Sandler movie with Christopher Walken where he had like
Oh,
the
click,
remote control click?
click.
That's what, yeah. There you go, yeah. But like he fast forwarded through everything and like it was sad and it was like, oh, whatever. But like yeah. But like it feels like that sometimes. Like it's like, like you're learning these things you want to be like, especially with like I know myself and I know you too, like with learning, like you want to be like an expert now. Because you can be. It's just a matter of like time. Like,
Yeah.
and
Dude,
time's
this
hard.
this week I had like a breakdown because I was like, am I actually making any progress? And then I smacked myself upside the head and I was like, hang on. You're like literally making insane progress on multiple fronts and you're asking yourself if I'm making any progress. It's like because you take it for granted, I guess. I take it for granted
Yeah.
that like making progress and it's like, oh, it's not it was this fast before, it should be faster now and then faster now. And it's like, hang on, you're making progress. Like, let's just slow down and enjoy.
Yeah, I think the other problem too is like with waiting is like, you want things to happen so fast too that you also lose perspective and you like I'll end up like doing way too much and then not doing anything else that I actually enjoy and missing out on things that I actually want to do or that actually matter to me. So it's like it's this catch 22 because it's like you want to make things progress so fast. And at the same time, it's like, you're failing to like live your life, or failing to like pay attention to the people around you or like listen or whatever.
Yeah, that's a really hard one trying to actually live life and get done all the stuff that you need to do. And it's just like there's on a regular basis, I find where I'm just like almost lost in terms of direction, where to go, what to do, what's important, what's
Oh,
not
dude,
important. Yeah.
constantly, right? And like, and the other hard thing too, I'll tell you another from personal experience. Like I know where I want to be, and like part of my motivation for wanting to be there is I want to take care of the people that I love and all. And it's like, but like I want that to happen faster too, because like nobody wants to feel like a burden or like whatever. And nobody wants, you know what I mean? Like all that stuff too adds up into that, and it makes it really hard. And like I think there's just a lot of and there's also like in especially in the US, there's a lot of pressure on like instantaneous, or at least that's what we sell as instantaneous success, which is total BS.
Dude, the overnight
Never happens.
success. That's the story. That's
Yeah,
the story of America. Overnight success. He was an
yeah.
overnight success.
My favorite one too, I think, was the one you told me about where the guy was like writing a blog for like 8 years. And then it took off like after that, and they were like an overnight success. And he was like, no, I've been doing this for 8 years every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, people
Crazy.
people don't see all the work that goes into it. They just see how all of a sudden overnight success. I mean, it's like that Martha Beck, great author. And it's like, oh, overnight success. She's an Oprah bestseller. And then you actually look and it's like she is prolific in her writing. She has written so many books like over and over and over again. And it's just like that's probably why she's gotten the success she has because she's just done it so much and so often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's tough too, though. It is. It's just like waiting is like one of the hardest things I think in the world. It really is. We
Mm-hmm.
all want things now. And I think we've been poisoned by culture that relies on instantaneous gratification, on things being faster and faster. It's like we had 5-day shipping wasn't good enough. We needed like next day delivery, and then we needed same day delivery. Like internet and all keeps getting faster, so communication keeps getting faster. Like we used to have to mail letters. Like I actually remember being an undergrad when AOL Instant Messenger came out. Remember that
Hmm.
thing?
Yeah.
Because like there wasn't any social media at the time. But that was like amazing because I remember like everybody in school would leave it up on their computer so like you could like communicate with anyone else on campus that way. Like, yo, what are you doing? And like whatever. And it was amazing because it was instant. Like you could post a message like, hey, I'm going to this place, and everybody would know. And it was fantastic. And like, but we've gotten so used to it that we also forget things take time. Like,
Hmm.
or like, I remember going to like trying to do research, going to the library, and a book would be out and having to wait for the book. And now I'm like, I want it now.
Oh my God. Dude, writing papers is so much easier.
Oh
I mean,
God,
we
yeah.
both did our undergrad over 20 years ago. And then I'm doing a master's now. And yeah, it's just so much easier because uh, you can just search stuff online and you can find the
Yeah.
articles. You can literally, and plus, like with Kindle, you can search in books for finding anything in there. It makes it so
Yeah.
much faster. You don't actually have to look through the
PDF.
book.
You can search for books in PDF too and everything. Like, yeah, you
Hmm.
get on your computer. And I mean you can have ChatGPT write your whole paper. You know what I'm doing?
Hmm. Yeah.
Do it
Back
instant.
in my day, you had to walk uphill both ways to school in the snow. Yeah.
You didn't have some AI.
Yeah, right. I know. Yeah, but this episode, I actually was thinking about it because I was listening to this thing about waiting with expectancy. So, like, a lot of the times I get into trouble waiting because I'm not convinced that it's going to happen. I don't know with certainty that it's coming. And so this talked about waiting with expectancy, like expecting that it's yours or that it's going to happen or that it's done. And all you need to do is just be patient. It talked about how like a farmer plants the seeds and then doesn't worry for 6 months. Oh, is the harvest going to come? Is the harvest going to come? No, you just plant the seeds, you water it, and then the harvest comes. And that's the way we should be with things that we're waiting for in life, because if we plant the seeds, if we do the right actions, it's going to come.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because my partner, she always gets mad at me because she says I'm like overly optimistic about everything that has to do with like our life. And part of it is because like if I'm not, I get wildly depressed.
Hmm.
Like so it's like a swing, I
Yeah.
swing that way. It's like it's a pendulum. So like, and that's exactly it. Like I have to keep in mind that like what I'm doing is directed towards something and that it will pay off. Otherwise, I cannot do it. I have no motivation to do it, right? Because what would be the point? If I knew it was going to fail, I wouldn't waste all my energies doing it. So it's
Hmm.
like I have to believe that it's going to work out. Otherwise, there's words pointless.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like the concept of sowing the seeds. Like, I think one of the parables was talked about in the Bible somewhere about like the someone was sowing seeds and the birds ate some of them and they didn't come up. And then some got tossed on dry ground and they didn't come up. And then other ones got tossed in brambles and they got choked out. But he continued sowing seeds, and the ones who made it to fertile ground multiplied 100-fold. So, like for me, that's actually kind of a life lesson in that not everything's going to pan out. You just need to keep on
Bible's
trying.
got a lot. It's got a lot of life lessons.
It's like, yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame it's not a more popular book.
All mythologies have that though, and that's the point of all those stories, right? Is that like
Mhm.
like yes, your efforts are going to fail in some cases. You can't expect 100% success on everything, but if you keep trying, you will get success. And I think that's the other thing. We've mentioned it a ton of times. Like the only way you fail is by not doing something, right? Or by quitting. But if you just keep at it, something will eventually take root and grow. To keep with the metaphor of
Mm.
sowing
That
seeds.
was that was really nice. You're on
Yeah.
there. Yeah, another thing. So, I used to when I was going to sleep, I would read fantasy books because I thought like, not reading anything. But then I started reading some more like I guess like positive mentality books or something like that. So I was actually reading the what is it, The Way of Integrity last night, and she was
Oh,
talking about some stuff from Byron Katie, who had the four questions. And it struck me last night, and it was the coolest thing that I was reading it before I went to sleep, because I must have been thinking about it all night, because it was what I was thinking about when I woke up in the morning too. It was this thing that when I believe my thoughts, I suffer. When I don't believe my thoughts, I don't suffer. And it was just like, holy cow. Because I was looking like recently, I've been suffering quite a bit, particularly because I've had these thoughts that I've believed. And
Yeah.
what if they're not true? Can I know absolutely that they're true? No. So like if I can recognize that they're thoughts and not believe them, I might suffer a bit less.
I deal with that all the time. I've been dealing with that a lot this last like couple weeks myself too, because I feel like I've been like I I feel like it's like a roller coaster always for me where I go like I have like almost like highs and lows constantly, you know? I think everybody does probably, right? But recently, and it's especially when I'm tired, I get really depressed. And then then as soon as I start to get down, my imagination just starts going wild, right? It's like this is worthless, this will never work out, like blah 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 blah. But usually by the next morning, I'm fine and I start doing stuff again. It's you feel better about it. But like I always try to catch myself when I'm doing that and just tell myself like this is just it's just a stupid like you're just imagining this. Like, right? It's not real. This is just because you feel bad in the moment. You didn't eat, you're tired, whatever. Maybe you need sleep, maybe you overworked. Who knows what the situation is? Maybe you need a break, because I don't really like, take time off necessarily. I just go. And
Mm-hmm.
like so, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Dude,
it's
I
tough.
mean, I'm pretty convinced that lacking sleep is just as bad for you as like drinking heavily, because I remember
Mm.
hearing studies about people who drove when they're tired, like when they haven't slept for over 24 hours, and they were doing just as bad as people who were drunk. And then also, I've had the experience when I'm really, really tired, I'll be in a terrible mood, and then I'll go to sleep. I'll wake up the next morning, and I was like, man, I felt like I was drunk last night, and I didn't drink, but it was just I was so
Yeah.
tired. It was, yeah, it
Well, they
messes with your
say,
mind.
that's like I think I remember I think I thought I read that the number one cause of accidents is tiredness. It's like because you just aren't paying attention, your reaction time slows down, especially like truck drivers. It's a big one for. I remember like there wasn't long ago that like I think it was a Walmart truck driver crashed because he was basically overworked, and like sleepy, and you can't respond to things. And so it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is the problem, right? With waiting, is like we still want it to happen, even though we might also need to take a break and like
Mm-hmm.
give ourselves a chance to recoup or regroup or whatever.
Mm. So, do you have any tips for waiting? How does one wait?
I don't know. I wish somebody would tell me because it's really
Mm.
hard.
Yeah. So like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll start with a couple and then you can have a couple. So I heard a saying once, time takes time. And it's like I keep trying to find the shortcut around time, you know? And it's like you can't. Time takes time. There's no shortcut. So just reminding myself that it is something that takes time. That's
It's
one thing
funny.
that I find helpful. Yeah.
That's a good one. I'm really bad with time. And I found out recently, and actually I didn't find out. Somebody explained it to me and it made sense. But I'm really good at estimating the time things will take, but I don't ever factor in like the other stuff. Like so like I know how long so to give you for instance, right? Like say I had to run to the store to pick something up. Like I know I can guess how long it's going to take me to go get the thing at the store, but I don't factor in the drive time. So I'm like,
Mm.
I'll be 10 minutes. But like it's impossible to do in 10 minutes because it takes 10 minutes to get there and back. So it's
Uh-huh.
like, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
and I have a very big tendency to do that. So I've been trying to do that more with time is like recognize that
Mm.
time not only takes time, but that there's also going to be other obstacles, unforeseens that I need to account for with that time.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. Adding it all up. Uh, I Another thing that I find helpful with waiting is actually writing down everything that I'm up to, because I get impatient because I lose track of all the stuff that I'm up to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when one thing out of 100 things I'm doing isn't going as fast as I should, I have a conniption. So
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So when I'm being very impatient, I like to write down all the stuff that I'm up to. One, so that I can see everything that I think I should be doing, but two, also to help me prioritize and figure out what's actually important. Because generally, when I'm impatient, it's because I'm not focusing on what's important.
I was gonna say prioritization is like probably like number one because that I find is yeah, where it throws you off all the time and you think you need to get something done, but it doesn't matter, or it's really not that big of a deal, and you're making out to be way more, right? You're making like a what's that saying? You're making a mountain out of a molehill or something. Is that it?
Yeah.
Something like
Hmm.
that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, like and you see it all the time. I mean, look at your own life. I'm sure somebody knows somebody like who thinks their work is way more important than it is or something, or like gets so stressed out about it. And it's like,
Dude, all of us, we're
yeah,
all dead in a
yeah,
hundred years. No one's gonna
yeah.
remember any of us. So anything that's so important, guess what? It's not.
No, it's not that important. So I think that's a good one too. It's like just remembering like life is short. Like, and do you really want to waste your time being in this state of like angst, stress, worry because you're rushing it when should you really be rushing it? Do you want to rush to that final end line
Mhm.
and get there faster? And if you're stressed, you're going to get there faster. You
Yeah.
know?
Dude, even the people who are like super stressed, like, no, it's like really important that I have this family and that I do well for my family and they know that I contributed. And it's like, get over yourself. Do you know your great great grandfathers? Mm-mm. Yeah.
No. Are you even interacting with the family that you have now?
Yeah.
You know,
I know, right?
spending time with them.
Yeah.
I would say too, I would add just taking a step back and taking a break sometimes is really helpful. Because like I know a lot of times for me, like when I cannot wait, nine times out of ten, it's because I need to take a break. Like I'm, pushing too hard or something, and you need to just take a step back, and that can really help you see that like it's not as important as it is, or you know, like we've said before, self-comparisons I think are a great way to realize like the progress you've actually made and put it into real perspective rather than like because like we're so quick to compare ourselves to others and be like, well, I'm not there yet. I don't have $10 million. I don't have my own business. I don't have this or that. I don't have a house. I
What
don't
a
have,
failure.
yeah, right, exactly. Total failure. But when you look at your own life, if you compare yourself, well, if I've made any strides in the last year compared to where I was last year, I'm doing great, because I am moving forward.
Dude, just to be alive, you've already won the freaking lottery.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's think about that. Like, all these things happen that your consciousness happened to be here. Like, that's
Hmm.
amazing.
Yeah. Totally. Already a freaking lottery. And just to wake up, just to wake up every day. A lot of people don't.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Many people don't.
Yeah.
Most people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like it's a paradox, is that when you're impatient, you need to just like I heard somebody somewhere say where it's like when you don't have enough time in the day to do what you're doing, you should take time out to meditate. And it's
Yeah.
like, what? No way. I need more time. I can't sit on a cushion for a half an hour. And it's like, well, go do that, you know? And it's like it's
Yeah.
crazy because usually that's what we need. We just need to still our mind or just
Yeah.
like settle instead of
Yeah.
running around like a chicken without our head off. I
Meditation is a great one,
Mhm.
actually, when you're struggling with waiting is actually taking time. And I would argue incorporating it into every day. There's like
Mhm.
and look online, you can find a million like, however long you want to do it, 5 minute, 10 minute, 20 minute things. And I personally like doing it without any kind of instruction, but like I think if you really have a hard time clearing your mind, sometimes like those ambient sound type things are good, like water trickling or something, or rainfall or
Mhm.
something can be really helpful to listen to, or just noise canceling headphones.
Yeah.
Really good.
And the cool thing is you can't do meditation wrong.
No.
Everybody stops because of like I can't clear my mind. And it's like, well, guess what? You're not supposed to. Nobody clears their mind.
Yeah.
Senior monks don't clear their mind. You know, it's just
No.
like that's a byproduct that sometimes occurs when you meditate, but really you're just watching your mind. So you can't do it wrong. So yeah, just well,
Did you ever read it was by Suzuki, I think it's called
oh yeah, that's a good
Zen
one.
Mind. Zen
Hmm.
Mind Beginner's Mind.
Yeah.
Dude, it's like one of my favorite books. Yeah, and he talks
Hmm.
about the big brain and the little brain, and like how like, we have all these thoughts coming and we want to cling to them. And like all meditation is just letting them go. And I think one of the best things you can do for yourself is afterwards ask yourself, like, why did these thoughts arise? Because that a lot of times gets you to the core root of like what my stresses are, what my problems are, what I'm worried about, what my fears are. So I think, that's another thing with waiting too, I think, is like facing our fears. Because I think most of us we're impatient because we're afraid. We're afraid we're going to fail. We're afraid we're not going to be good enough. We're afraid we're going to succeed. We're afraid we're going to not find love. We're afraid we're going to find love. I mean, like we're afraid of everything. And so,
And we're
so
usually afraid of both things happening.
yeah, literally. That's the insane part, right? Like it's
Yep.
like we are we are terribly equipped to deal with this life, but like, you know, it's
Hmm.
just trying. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a good one.
There was also a story from um The Power of Positive Thinking, where he was talking about how a very, very busy guy went to go see a doctor because he was somewhat stressed. And he was this guy who would bring home his briefcase every day with like hours of work to do at home after he left the office. And the doctor said to him, he's like, if I give you a prescription, will you follow it? And the guy said, yeah, yeah, sure. So he said, every day, I want you to go for a walk for 2 hours. And then once a week, I want you to spend half the day at a cemetery. And the guy's like, are you kidding? I don't have time to do that. I'm very busy. I'm very important. And the doctor's like, yeah, well, do this because all those people, when you spend time at the cemetery, you'll see all these other people who thought just like you that they were very, very important, that the world would fall apart without them. And look at where they are now. And I think that's a good reminder because that's
Yeah,
something every once in a while I go and sit at a cemetery because it's like all these people, it's very easy to think that they're the other, that this won't happen to me. They were different. And it's like, no, they all thought the world revolved around them. And look, they're all dead and buried.
that is our fundamental problem, right? Though, like, is like that we think we're the star of the show. Everybody thinks that way. And it's a very effective mechanism to, it makes us very quick to blame. It makes us very quick not to take responsibility. It makes us very quick to do all these things. And I think, yeah, you're right. Getting perspective on that can be so helpful for waiting and just realizing, like, slow down. What's the rush? Like, we'll get there. I always like to remind myself too, like, when I'm struggling with waiting, is like, did I do the thing that I wanted to do today? And if I did, then I'm good because I'm working towards it. And the important thing is like, and I think this is what we forget too. We're so focused on the end, we forget the journey is really living. That's life because the end is the same for everybody.
Mm.
So like, I asked myself, like, did I, if I'm trying to learn something, did I spend at least 5 minutes doing it? Yes, then I'm good today. I can take a break if I need to or whatever, because I'm working towards it. And that's all I can do is work towards it. That's all I can ever do is work towards it.
I actually, I mean, when you just said that, that just struck me because I think that one is really important. Like, could could you imagine having one thing that you're supposed to do each day and getting that done and being like, oh, that's awesome. Like I literally have a never-ending list of stuff that I need to get
Yeah.
done, and I expect me to get done all of it every single day. And every single day I'm disappointed because I didn't clear out the whole entire list.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah. It's like at AA meetings, they say like, did you have a drink today? No? All right, you won. Great.
Yeah. Right? You did good. You
Yeah.
did good today.
Yeah.
Congratulate yourself. Because I think that's our other problem though with waiting is that we're so quick to judge ourselves for our perceived failures rather than look at our successes each day. You know? We all have a lot to do. Like people forget, we all have a lot of shit we have to do every day. We have a lot of responsibilities. There's a lot of stresses. Sometimes we don't feel good. Sometimes we feel good. I mean, there's so many things going on every day, and it's like we put so much pressure on ourselves to get to solve every problem. But guess what? There's gonna be more problems tomorrow. Leave
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow's problems for tomorrow. Do what you can today, and be grateful that you got done what you got done. You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm really enjoying reading through The Way of Integrity again. Great
it's a
book.
good book.
And I love like
It is.
the analogy of Dante, the Inferno. Because
Yeah.
when you just said that, she was talking about towards the end of it where he gets double dipped in that river. And like the first dip, he forgets all the bad stuff that he's ever done. And the second dip, he remembers all the good stuff that he's ever done. And it's just like, man, if we could do that every day, like just forget, let go of all the bad stuff you've done and then just focus on all the good stuff you've done, we would probably feel incredible every day.
You know what's funny? Like we've talked about Marcus Aurelius a lot. We've talked about a lot of like Nietzsche, a lot of philosophers, and like I love it. I've always loved ethics, and I've taught it for a long time. And like ethics is about the good life and about being a good person. And whenever I teach my students, I always tell them like it when you read this stuff, if you just especially when you read it the first time, it seems like it can be so easy to be like, oh, okay, so I need to do that to be a good person. But that's not what they're saying. They're saying you have to keep working at it. And in effect, the good person is an ideal. Like you're never going to be the perfectly good person. You work towards it. And so you just have to keep moving forward. That's the important thing. And I think like that's what's so hard about waiting is because we get so caught up in end the goals, not just doing it, not just day by day doing it. Some days are gonna be good, some are gonna be bad, and it's okay. I think we need self-compassion is very important for waiting.
Mm, that's a great point. Yeah, and so like self-compassion, I read this book called Self-Compassion by Dr. Kristen Neff, and she talks about I found this very helpful because this was something that was new to me was what self-compassion is recognizing that this is a moment of suffering,
Yeah.
recognizing that in life there's suffering and other people suffer, and then just asking yourself, how can I be kind to myself?
Yeah, that's a good
Like,
one.
do and this is something that I use on a regular basis when I'm suffering, and it's really, really helpful. Because like usually I'm self-flagellating. When I'm suffering, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, why am I suffering? What's wrong with me? So like, instead of that, just being like, oh, this is a moment of suffering. In life,
Yeah,
there's suffering. Other people suffer too. How can I be kind to myself? And then just do it.
that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny. We love whipping ourselves,
Oh my
and
gosh.
getting down ourselves. We do.
Hmm.
We like it. We get off on it. It's crazy. And it
Hmm.
makes no sense because we just make it worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
We're weird creatures.
Hmm.
I just had another one I was just gonna say and I can't remember now. Damn.
Mm.
Hold on.
Yeah, it'll come back. But yeah. And also like I remember one time I looked up the definition of patience. And one of the things it said was endurance. And this was new to me because I didn't
Okay.
actually relate those two. But like you think about endurance running or like any endurance sport. And it's something where number one, you have to build it up. Like you're not born with it. And number
No.
two, a lot of times it just hurts and you have to endure. You have to deal with it. And so like that reminded me that with patience, it's something that number one, I have to build up. And the only way I can build it up is by being in situations that test my patience. And number two, I just have to endure. Like some stuff you just have to get through. And that's it.
Yeah. That reminds me of something else too, which is, like all the things that we look back on as being our greatest achievements or the things we look back on with like the most pride are often the things that were the hardest, took the most effort, and took the longest to get. When things are super easy to get, we don't appreciate them. We appreciate because usually when things are really hard, we learned something, we grew, we overcame some obstacle, we became better people, whatever. And I think, you got to remember that too. I think with waiting, it's like, we want the end goal so fast, but we often forget that like 90% of the time, it's like that struggle is going to make it so much more valuable, like so much more valuable. That if you just had it handed to you, you wouldn't care about it. It wouldn't matter, you know? It's like it feels so much better when you get it on your own terms yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to put in the work. Otherwise, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, we're all just trying to create ourselves, right? And I think, oh, that's what I was gonna remember too. Is like, I just remember what I was gonna say. Huh? See, came back.
Ta-da.
Remember too that it's like, our interpretations are all plastic. We're looking when you're waiting and you're struggling, and I remind myself this all the time, and sometimes it really helps, sometimes it doesn't always help. I'm just being honest, but like it does. But like, remember that this is just a way you're looking at the world. You are looking at the world a certain way right now, and you can change that. It was was it? Pythagoras, who said like, men are the measure of all things, the things that are that they are, things that are not that they're not, right? We're meaning makers. So when you're really struggling, you're really having a bad day, remind yourself, I can totally interpret this differently. What's great about today? What's good about being alive? What's awesome with my life? Whatever. Start looking for things positive and start changing that mental interpretation of reality and see the world differently. Sometimes take a walk is a great one. I think a
Hmm.
good one for helping. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's okay to have terrible days, terrible weeks,
Yeah.
terrible months. It's
Yeah.
part of life. I think like nowadays it's very difficult because we're sold this idea that everything's supposed to be good. But remember that that's people selling you stuff. Like
Yeah.
they're literally trying to get your money. That's why they're telling you your life is supposed to be awesome all the time.
Or people on social media lying about how good their lives
So
are.
that, but why do they do that? To make
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
money, you know?
Yeah.
So like everything is just to get more money. Whereas if instead it's like, yeah, life sucks sometimes. Sometimes you're just going to be miserable. It's going to be terrible. You know what? Your life doesn't need to be good all the time. Sometimes it's just going to stink. And that's just the
I,
way it is.
I remind myself that all week because my this last week has been hard for me. But like it's okay. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it'll end. I'll be on an uptick again soon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you just gotta do it.
Yeah.
Wait
It's
for it. You just gotta wait for it.
it's kind of crazy. So like I tell you that I do these ice baths every once in a while. And no matter how many times I do it, it's still like insanely painful. And but it's always like it's what is that? Like the tangent to the line. Okay, so like
Yeah.
when it gets when it gets as terrible as it's going to get, and my mind is saying there's no way I can deal with this. That's almost always the end of it. And like I
Yeah.
start to see those patterns in my life where like when things are getting so bad that I'm like, there's no way I can handle this. That's usually the top. And then
Yeah.
when things are getting so good, I'm like, oh, my life is so freaking awesome. That's usually the best it's going to get. And then
That's
it's going to
it.
go in the other direction.
You maxed out, now you're on the downturn.
Yeah.
Oh, one last thing I would say about waiting too is this is just from personal experience too. I know when I get like, especially when I get down and I'm most frustrated, I can be quick to I can be quick to look around and start blaming things within my own sphere. And I've learned to stop doing that. And that's really helpful too.
Mm.
Like, because we're I think we're like, I don't want to say like programmed, but like we have a tendency to want to push that blame off ourselves onto the world. So it's very easy to, oh, it's this way because of that person in my life, or because of that thing, or because of this circumstance in society or this situation. And instead of doing that, just take a step back and just don't blame anything. We said it before, like what the Taoist, a beginner blames others or the world, right? The master blames himself, and no, yeah, and the
Intermediate blames
enlightened one,
himself, and the master, yeah,
yeah, blames
blames
no
no
one.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the truth, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that is like one of the most important things too, because I fall in that trap all the time where I start to look around, I start to get mad at like the people around me or like, circumstances, and none of that has anything to do with it. I might just be having a bad day. So just take a break.
Yeah, we're all just a
Wait.
bunch of silly bunnies trying to have the best time we can.
Yeah, that's really it.
Yep.
Waiting for a hawk to come down and just snatch us up.
Bingo. So there you have it. How to wait. I hope that was helpful for you. It was helpful for me because I know I've been struggling with this, and I'm glad we can meet up
Me
and chat
too. I
about this,
feel
Danny.
better.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you did enjoy this, make sure to check it out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Like, share, subscribe. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.